Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Mike suddenly stopped working. Good morning. Hmm. So let us begin with basic concept topic, and let me briefly recapitulate the whole thing. Yesterday we discussed about a couple of basic concepts like Indian polity, like polity. What do we mean by polity? Then we discussed about democracy. Then we discussed about government. Then we discussed about authority. Then we discussed about governance. So we will continue with our basic concept topic even today. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Mm, if it is 2 hours class, then you should devote not less than 2 hours. Somebody is asking about current affairs or polity. Don't worry about current affairs or polity. Whenever there will be anything related to current affairs, I will be discussing those things in the classroom itself. And once, so we will be discussing those things in the classroom itself. Hmm. Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Hmm. Am I audible now? There was some technical snag because yesterday's lecture suddenly started running. So that is why I had to inform to the YouTube guy. Okay. So suddenly what happened that yesterday's lecture started running. That is why I had to inform to the YouTube person that some other lecture is going on. Hmm. So let us begin with the topic. Yesterday we discussed about basic concept. So sometimes it happens because sometimes due to technical snag or some other difficulties, it will happen sometimes. So you need to take things in a stride. You should not worry too much about whether lecture gets delayed by 4 or 5 minutes due to technical snag because it will keep on happening. These are technical things. This will keep on happening. So let us continue with our lecture. Yesterday we discussed about basic concept. Let me briefly recapitulate about the whole thing. So yesterday we discussed about some of the basic concepts like one, meaning of polity, in which I told you that polity is nothing but polity is a political entity. Now what do we mean by political entity? So I told you about political entity that India is a political entity which is capable of taking all its decisions. Then we discussed that a political entity like India or any polity is also capable of mobilizing resources for its own people. And then we discussed that a polity is something which has got its own legal and administrative framework also. A polity is something which has got its own legal and administrative framework also. And then we discussed that legal framework means a political entity having a constitution which acts as the rule book or the guidebook. Then we discussed it has got its own administrative framework. It means it has got its own bureaucracy to run the country. So polity is a political entity having its own legal and administrative framework. It has the capacity to mobilize resources for its people. It has got a constitution which acts as a rule book or a guidebook to run the country. It also has got a bureaucracy which is responsible for implementing decisions taken by the legislature. And then we discussed about the definition of democracy. So in democracy, we discussed that it is of the people, for the people, and by the people. So the model of democracy which we have adopted in India is multi-party democracy, in which multiple people have multiple political parties can coexist. So democracy is a system in which government is being run by a few elected people. So what are the prerequisites for democracy? Just having election is not considered as a true democracy. So what are the prerequisites? The first prerequisite we discussed, free and fair election. Second prerequisite we discussed, election at regular intervals. Third prerequisite we discussed that universal adult suffrage, that is everyone who is each person who is above 18 years of age has got the right to vote. And fourth, a right to contest election. And then we discussed about the meaning of government. So in the meaning of government, we discussed a group of people. Government is nothing but a group of people officially running the country called as government. So when we say government in India, what is meant by government in India? Like somebody say that It is government in India. So what do you mean by the government in India? Or government formation after the election. The Prime Minister and Council of Ministers constitute the government. Chief Minister and Council of Ministers constitute the government. So government is something which is officially running the country. It is responsible for officially running the country. It is uh, it is primarily meant to ensure governance in the country. And then we discussed about the officials running the country. They may be elected, they may also be unelected. So, not necessarily having a government means it's a democracy. For example, in China, they have a government. In North Korea, they have a government. In Iran, they have a government. So, China is a socialist country. North Korea is very much like a monarchy. And Iran is a theocracy. And India is a democracy. So, these are different countries having different political system, but still they are having the government, they are having the people to run the country. And then we discussed about authority. Now, what is the meaning of authority? So I told you authority means having legitimate power is called authority. Having legitimate power means the capacity to take decisions, and this capacity has been derived from the law, is called as authority. So I do not have an authority to impose taxes. PW does not have the authority to impose taxes, but Government of India has got the authority to impose taxes. Government of India has got the authority to impose fine. Why? Because Government of India and their representatives, they are implementing laws which conforms to the constitution. So authority means, I also gave you the example of traffic police. So I told you that only traffic police has got the authority to impose fine in case of violation of traffic. So traffic policeman is an authority. So authority means legitimate power. I will be taking up all your doubts, so just wait. So authority means legitimate power. And then I told you about governance. Now, what do we mean by governance? So the way authority is exercised in the management of countries' social and economic resources. Now, what do we mean by economic resources? So the way authority is exercised in the management of countries' social and economic resources. For example, you need to skill your people. One, you need to mobilize your resources to run the country. Two, all these are being done by the authority, not by you and me. That is why I said that governance means the way authority is exercised in the management of countries' economic and social resources is called as गवर्नमेंट. उसके बाद फिर हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था, यहां तक हम लोगों ने पिछले क्लास में डिटेल में डिस्कस कर लिया था. नाउ लेट अस मूव ऑन टू देन वी आल्सो डिस्कस्ड अबाउट द डेफिनेशन ऑफ स्टेट. और क्या डिस्कस किया था हम लोगों ने? स्टेट, इट मींस अ कम्युनिटी ऑफ पर्संस ऑक्यूपाइंग अ डेफिनिट टेरिटरी, free from external control and having an organized government. A community of persons permanently occupying a definite territory, free from external control and having an organized government. Got my point? So it means a community of persons having a definite, occupying a definite territory. It means there is a definite territory which is undisputed, in which a community of persons are living. They are being governed by an authority which is called as government. And this government is free from external control. It means this government is a sovereign government. So these are the four aspects or four limbs of a state also. One is territory, second one is population, third one is government, and fourth one is sovereignty. These are the four limbs of a state: population, territory, government, and sovereignty. So there is a community of persons living or occupying a definite territory, having an organized government, and they are free from external control. And they are free from external control. So you have got a community of persons, that is population. You have got a definite territory, that is an area, that is a territory, an organized government. And this organized government is a sovereign government which is capable of taking all its decision. Everybody understood this concept? So is there any doubt? Authority is a legitimate power, and this legitimate power, Asha, is being exercised by a person. Asha is asking this question: authority refers to a person or only a power? So authority is legitimate power which is being exercised by a person. For example, traffic policeman. The traffic policeman has been vested with the power to exercise authority in case of violation of traffic. Got my point? Asha, answer of your question. Any other question or any other doubt? ऋतिक, तुम्हारा कमेंट दिख रहा है, चलिए. निशा कुमारी पूछ रही है सर लाइव है ना? लाइव का निशा और क्या एग्जाम्पल होता है? लाइव का एग्जाम्पल होता है somebody can interact with you, somebody can answer your question. So that is the example of live. हाँ, जल्दी बताइए अगर किसी का कोई डाउट है तो. अगर कोई भी डाउट है तो पूछ लीजिए. चलो. So suddenly what happened? I told you earlier only that suddenly yesterday's lecture had started running. That is why I had to stop the lecture for a couple of minutes. Chalo. Now let us begin with next basic concept. All clear? There is no doubt? Okay. So let us move on to the next part. And here we will be discussing about aspects like state in detail when we will discuss about Article 12, but not now. Right now it is only a basic concept topic in which I'm dealing with some of the definition which remains a point of pain for a student. So throughout your Indian Polity course, if you are unaware about these words like democracy, like government, like polity, so every now and then I will keep using these words and you will face a lot of difficulties in these words. That is why in the first couple of lectures, I try to cover these topics only: the meaning of constitution, constitutionalism, and limited government. The next one is sovereignty. Sovereignty. क्या मतलब होता है sovereignty का? Sovereignty means ability of a country to take decisions free from external control. So for example, India is a sovereign country. So India is capable of taking its own decisions internally as well as externally. So sovereignty means ability of a country to take its own decisions or power to take decisions, ability to take decisions free from external control, free from external control. ability to take decisions free from external control. So, a country is able to take all its decisions internally as well as externally. It means uncontrolled power of a country in taking its decisions internally as well as externally. Uncontrolled, controlled powers of a government in taking its decisions internally as well as externally. It means India is a sovereign country. India is capable of taking all its decisions without any external control or external influence, and India has got an unlimited or uncontrolled power of taking decisions. So India is internally sovereign, so internally India can take all its decisions. India is externally sovereign, so India can take all its external decisions without any external influence. Sovereignty is an important aspect of state. A state, only when it is truly a sovereign state, remember this fact, a state, only when it is truly a sovereign state, then only it can be called as a country in true sense of the term. It must remain truly a sovereign country. If it is not truly a sovereign country, it means it is not a state. So, in order to be called as a state, it has got to be a truly sovereign country. So it needs to have the power to take all its decisions internally as well as externally. Only when a state is capable of taking its decisions internally as well as externally, it can be called as a state in true sense of the term. Otherwise, it cannot be called as state in true sense of the term. Yesterday, I told you that today we will be discussing about concepts like state. So, yesterday we discussed about concept like state. Today we will discuss about concepts like nation, country. So, remember, in order to be called as a state, a country needs to have the ability to take all its decisions internally as well as externally. Only when you are capable of taking your decision internally as well as externally, only then a state would be able to take decisions. उसी कंडीशन में स्टेट डिसीजन ले पाएगा, अदरवाइज स्टेट डिसीजन नहीं ले सकता है. सारे बच्चों को ये पॉइंट क्लियर है? जल्दी बताएं. Everyone understood this concept or not? Sovereignty, please let me know. Everyone understood this concept or not? Or is there any doubt? Now let us move on to the next concept. Now let us move on to the next concept. What is the meaning of a country? Then we will discuss about, first we discussed about a state. Now let us move on to the meaning of country. What do we mean by country and what do we mean by nation? You will always face difficulty in getting the exact meaning of state, country and nation. So state we already discussed. Today we will discuss about country and nation. Country. what do we mean by country? In case of a state, I told you that a state has got four aspects. One is it must have a territory. Two, the territory must be occupied by a population. And three, it must be having an organized government, and this government must be a sovereign government. Then only it can be called truly a state. So, what do we mean by country then? How a state and a country are different from each others. A country is nothing. It is merely a geographical term. Got my point? A country is nothing. A country is a geographical term. It is a geographical expression merely. For example, India during British period can be taken as an example of a geographical expression. It is merely a geographical expression, that's it. It does not have its own government. It does not have a sovereign government. It is not capable of taking all its decisions. So its decisions are not taken by its own government. For example, India during British period cannot be taken as an example of a state. Remember this fact. India during British period, it cannot be taken as an example of a state. A country is merely a geographical expression. And this geographical expression, it includes mountains, plains, plateau, rivers, etc. It is not a state yet. Remember that every state is a country, but every country need not be a state. Remember this fact. So it is merely a geographical expression. For example, India during British period. India during British period can be taken as an example of a country and not a state. It was merely a country. Why? Because it did not have its own organized government capable of taking all its decisions internally as well as externally. Therefore, India during British period can be considered as only a country and not a state. Because in order to be called as a state, it must be capable of taking all its decisions. So India during British period was merely a geographical expression, was only a country, as India was not capable, as India was not a sovereign country, not a sovereign entity. It means India was not capable of taking its decisions internally as well as externally. But today India is a state. Why? Because India is capable of taking its decisions internally as well as externally. So today India is a state which is capable of taking its decisions internally as well as externally. It is capable of taking all its decisions internally as well as externally. India was not a sovereign entity during British period. So a country differs from a state. So every state is a country because every state has got some geographical features, but not a country. But every country is not a state. So every state is a country, but every country is not a state. If it is a state, it must be a country. Obviously, it has got some geographical feature because a state cannot be an state on paper itself. If a state is a state, it means it is a real entity. It has got a territory, it has got a population, it has got an organized government, and it is also capable of taking all its decisions for its people internally as well as externally. Therefore, I said that every country can be a state. Every state is a country, but every country need not be a state because India during British period was merely a geographical expression. India did not have its own organized government. India did not, and the government of India did not enjoy sovereignty, so it was not capable of taking all its decisions internally as well as externally. So every state is a country, but every country need not be a state. Everyone understood this point or not? Please let me know. Hmm. Please let me know. Hong Kong is the part of China today. Uttara. Hong Kong is a part of China. Geographical expression means geographical features. It has got its own plain, it has got its own mountain, it has got its own plateaus. And you are sitting, Rosalind, you are sitting here in English medium class. So please do not ask question related to English Hindi. Yes, if you remove sovereignty from a state, it becomes a country. That's true. For example, in India during British period. Bilkul Kannu. Polity and governance goes hand in hand. So the one who teaches polity will also teach you governance. External decision like foreign policy related decisions. Bandit. Any other question? Obviously, India today is a sovereign country because India today, Khushi has got its own government which is capable of taking all its decisions internally as well as externally. UP as a state is a part of Indian state. So UP state is a part of Indian state. Indian state, so the term state which is being used by us is a broader entity that consists of a number of smaller states like UP, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, Meghalaya, etc. etc. Vedika. Now there has started coming very out of the outlandish question. The difference between Indian state and American state. Oh my God. Chalo, now let us move forward and let us discuss about nation. Now, what is the meaning of nation? What is the meaning of nation? If you will ask me in Deshi language the meaning of nation and meaning of a state, so what you can experience on the road can be taken as an example of a state. but what you can experience in your heart when Virat Kohli hits sixes or hits the ball out of the park, that can be, and you feel happy, then this can be taken as an example of a nation. So, what you can experience on the road while driving a car on the road, the feeling you have got can be taken as an example of a state, because you need to follow traffic rule, you need to stop at traffic light, and you need to follow all the rules that is prescribed for all. So it is an example of a state. But what you experience in your heart when Virat Kohli hits the ball out of the park, that can be taken as an example of a nation. For example, I tell you that I have watched not less than 30, 40, 50 times the two sixes hit by Virat Kohli in 2022 on the last two balls of 19th over against Pakistan. I have watched those two sixes not less than 30, 40, 50 times. And even today, I feel so happy when I watch those two sixes being hit by Virat Kohli. But what I have got to do with Virat Kohli? The six was hit by Virat Kohli. Money was earned by Virat Kohli. Fame was earned by Virat Kohli. Why should I feel happy about Virat Kohli hitting those sixes? That's nation. So nation is nothing. What you feel in your heart, it's a collective feeling. It's a collective sentiment. When Virat Kohli hits those sixes, when Virat Kohli hits the ball out of the park and you start feeling happy, now that's the perfect example of the nation. Got my point? So, chaliye, that has already been cleared. Khushi. Internal decision, law and order related decision is called as internal decision. Foreign policy decisions is called as external decision. Now, what is not clear about this aspect? Law and order related question is internal decision. Foreign policy related decision is external decision. And Mr. Modi Godar, Indian state, UP and MP, etc. are sovereign. No, obviously no. We are using the term Indian state like UP state or Bihar state. This state is a part of Indian state. These states are part of Indian state only. They are not sovereign bodies. Really. And Khushi, this is an English medium class, bete. So please, when you ask any question, so those questions should be very focused and well directed. Because only any question related to words will not be entertained, because this is primarily an English medium class in which mode of communication will primarily be in English. So 99.99% of the time, mode of communication will be in English. So only when you are comfortable with English language, then only you can attend these classes. If you are not comfortable with English language, then you will face a lot of difficulties, because Hindi language will not be used. Chali. So now let us move on to the definition of nation itself, and then we will discuss about, then again I will be discussing about the differences between a state and country and nation. So nation, I gave you the example of nation, that what you witness, what you experience on the road while driving a car, that can be taken as an example of a nation. And second, later on we will discuss Kushit, not right now, just wait. And don't interrupt in between, because I gave you the opportunity to ask question earlier when I finished the concept. But once I have finished the concept, moved on to the new topic, there is absolutely no point in keep on asking about earlier concept, because you have been given the opportunity to ask question. You did not ask question then, and now I'm discussing a different concept. Again, you are asking. So just wait. Have patience. When I'm discussing a particular question, a particular topic. So just wait and let me finish the concept, and then I will be taking up your doubts. Not right now, because interrupting a concept in between, in the midst of something, is not a very good idea. So you just wait and have patience. So I told you about nation, that nation is something which you feel in your heart. Nation is something which is like a collective feeling, which is like a shared feeling. Remember, the meaning of nation is here. It refers to the collective or shared feeling with whom. So it refers to collective or shared feeling. Feeling with land, culture, people, etc. When you feel very connected with particular culture, when you feel very connected with the people of a territory. For example, if you are an Indian living in Alaska, you have gone to a supermarket, suddenly you find somebody who is talking on phone and is speaking Hindi, and you suddenly feel a connect with the person. Or somebody who is talking on phone in Alaska is speaking in Boli. Boli is a localized language. So they are speaking in local language, and that local language is also your local language. So suddenly you feel connected with the person, and you ask from the person, from where have you come from in India? So it means you have got a feeling, of connection with that person due to a particular language. So remember that within the boundary of a state, here you have got two things. One, India as a nation, whether India is a nation or not, whether India is a nation or not. Whether India is a nation or not. Suppose every Indian has developed, every Indian has developed a shared feeling of oneness, a shared feeling of oneness, irrespective of their language, their religion, their caste, their reason, etc., their race, etc. Shared feeling of oneness. If every person in India has developed a shared feeling of oneness, then only India becomes a nation. Remember, then only India becomes a nation. Otherwise, it is not a nation. It is a nation in making. So it means within the boundary of a state, you can have hundreds of nations. For example, this is Indian state. Indian state, suppose it is being divided on the lines of religion, on the lines of caste, on the lines of ethnicity, on the lines of language, culture, etc., then it is not truly a nation. So you will not find a true nation in present context. For example, Chinese nation is a nation in true sense of the term. So in China, Chinese state and Chinese nation, you will find that 95% of Chinese people are Mandarin speaking Han people. And they have developed a collective or shared feeling of oneness with each others. But countries like India, or any such country like India, which is divided on the lines of religion, which is divided on the lines of even caste, language, and region, it cannot be called as truly a nation. So people say, experts say that, or scholars say that India is still a nation in making. It is not truly a nation because within the boundary of a state, you can have hundreds of nations. How? So within the boundary of a nation, you can have a Tamilian nation. If you feel that you can have a Muslim nation, a Hindu nation, a Sikh nation, within the boundary of a state itself. Even though you are an Indian, but if you feel oneness with your caste or you feel oneness with your religion first, if your shared feeling or collective sentiment aligns with your religion or caste or region or language or culture first, and then comes India, it means for you the project of nation making has not been completed. For you, India is not a nation. When will India become a nation? India will become a nation when all the people inhabiting the territory of India will have a shared feeling of oneness with each others. When all the people inhabiting a territory of India will have a shared feeling of oneness with each others, then only India would become truly a nation. And if Indians are divided on the lines of religion, Indians are divided on the lines of caste, then India is not truly a nation. For you, your caste becomes the nation. For you, your religion becomes the nation. If somebody says that for me, my religion comes before India, it means for you the project of nation making has not been completed. For you, your religion comes before India, and therefore the project of nation making has not been completed for you. If somebody says that my race comes before India, my language comes before India, then it means the project of nation making has not been completed for you. Got my point? So in order to have completed this project of nation making, every Indian must develop this feeling of oneness. If you do not have this feeling of oneness with each others, if you do not have a collective sentiment, a shared feeling with each others, it means for you the project of nation making has not been completed. So you may ask this question that do you think that any country in the world can be called as a pure nation? I don't think so. In today's era of multiculturalism, only a couple of countries can be called as pure nations. For example, China. So more than 95% of Chinese population speak Mandarin. One, they are Han's people. They are Han. So their ethnicity is Han, and they speak Mandarin. So China can be called as a pure nation. Today, even European countries like Britain and Germany and France cannot be called as a pure nation because of immigrants coming to these countries. So their culture are very mixed culture. Whereas pure nation, it's a rarity in today's world. A country like China can be called as a pure nation where overwhelming percentage of Chinese population, more than 95% of Chinese population, they speak Mandarin language. They have one language. They have one ethnicity. And therefore, it can be called as a pure nation in classic sense of the term. Earlier, people used to say that, oh my God, German nation is a pure nation or French nation is a pure nation. Today, those countries cannot be called as a pure nation because of millions and millions of refugees flooding those countries. So can we call India as a nation? No, I won't call India as a nation. Because Indians are divided on multiple lines. I'm sorry to say, but Indians are divided on multiple lines. If you are an Indian for whom, if you are an Indian national, an Indian citizen for whom your religion comes before India, it means the project of nation making has not been completed for you. If you are an Indian citizen for whom your caste comes before India, I'm sorry to say, but the project of nation making has not been completed for you. If you are an Indian for whom your language comes before India, I'm sorry to say, the project of nation making has not been completed for you. So, only when each and every citizen of India will develop a shared feeling of oneness, then only India would become truly a nation. So, it means within the boundary of a state, if this shared feeling has not been developed, then you can have hundreds of nations. Got my point? So, it means if this if this shared feeling this shared feeling has not developed within the boundary of a state, within the boundary of a state, among people, among people, then the project of nation making, then the project of nation making has not yet completed. The project of nation making will complete only when has not yet completed. It will complete only when each and every citizen of India will develop this shared feeling. For each and every citizen of India, the shared feeling called India comes first, and then comes their religion, then comes their caste, then comes their language. So if your primary identity is of being an Indian, and then only you are a Hindu, you are a Muslim, you are a Sikh, then only if your primary identity is of being an Indian, then only you are an Assamese, you are a Bengali, you are a Tamilian, then only India can be called as truly a nation. So for in order to be called as truly a nation, you got to develop this feeling. If you do not have this feeling, it means the project of nation making for you has not been completed. So it means within the boundary of a state you can have hundreds of nation, and if within the boundary of a state if shared feeling has not developed among the people, then it means the project of nation making has not yet been completed, has not yet been completed. Got my point? Everybody understood this concept? Please let me know. Hmm. There is nothing wrong in it, Ritik. There is nothing wrong in it when if Indians are using American platforms like Twitter or Facebook to discuss about nationalism. So the only thing is that we should not be fighting among ourselves that this language is good or that language is good. As long as you are not fighting on the lines of language, on the lines of religion and caste and other things, and if there is this shared feeling of oneness among all Indians, then the project of nation making has been completed. Otherwise, the project of nation making has not been completed. Hmm. Any doubt? Even after belonging to different religion or different caste group, you can still form a nation if your primary identity. Nikita asked this question. If your primary identity, no, Ritik asked this question. So, if your primary identity is of being an Indian, if your primary identity Your first identity is of being an Indian. And then only you are a Hindu or you are a Muslim. It means the project of nation making has been completed for you. But if your primary identity is not of being an Indian, then it means the project of nation making has not been completed for you. Uttara, that is true. Hmm. Next, now let us move on to the definition of law. What is the meaning of law? Dhruv has asked this question: is diversity a hindrance to nation making? Uh, Diversity might be one of the reasons to, might be a reason to create obstacle in forging an alliance, in creating a shared feeling. It might be one of the reasons. Diversity. Because diversity, it remains a challenge to be accommodated. For example, I gave you the example of Chinese nation. Chinese nation are pure nation. Why? Because overwhelming percentage of Chinese population, they are Hans and they are Mandarin speaking. So they have same ethnicity and they speak same language. And therefore, even if there are differences among Chinese, still those differences are not overpowering this shared or collective feeling about Chinese nation. They have a sense of pride in their Chinese nation. In China, they have a lot of differences with each others. Perhaps you do not know that in China, every city has got a population, and only the designated citizen residing in a particular city will have the right to purchase property. But it doesn't mean that China is not a nation, because overwhelming percentage of Chinese population, they have this shared feeling about Chinese nation. They have a sense of pride about Chinese nation. They feel happy about Chinese nation. When China trumps United States of America in Olympic, they have a sense of oneness. They have a sense of shared feeling. And therefore I said that if you talk about the pure nation, so you have very few pure nations in the world. Pure nation means there are collective feeling among the people. They have a sense of oneness among the people. So diversity, it truly remains a challenge. Hmm. Hmm. Kushi Yadav is asking questions. Sir, unity among Indians also defined feeling of oneness. That is true. That is true. Unity among Indians. So this unity, the feeling of unity itself can be taken as an example of nation. But is it true for every Indian? Are we not divided on the lines of religion? Are we not divided on the lines of language, on the lines of ethnicity, on the lines of caste? So, as long as your primary identity is not of being an Indian, as long as your primary identity is belonging to a particular religion, if your religion comes first and your nation comes second, if India comes second and your religion comes first, then the project of nation making for you has not been completed. For example, I'm a Hindu. And if for me being a Hindu comes first before India, it means the project of nation making for me has not been completed. If a particular my religion comes before my country, if my religion comes before Indian nation, it means the project of nation making has not been completed. If I do not have a feeling of happiness when Virat Kohli hits six, if I have a feeling of oneness with the members belonging to my religion, and if India is not a part of my shared feeling, if India is not my primary identity, then the project of nation making has not been completed. Hmm. Chaliye. Yes, that is true. That is true. Triveni, we need to fight for this one feeling of being an Indian. We should not be fighting for religion or caste or religion, caste, ethnicity, or race or culture, etc. We are Indian first. Yes, Ritik, nationalism, it is also connected with a spirituality, a spiritualism. So Aurobindo Ghosh, he has talked about the idea of Indian nation. So though we do not need to study about Aurobindo Ghosh here, but I'm giving you one example of Aurobindo Ghosh. So when British said that India is a country and India is not a nation, then Aurobindo Ghosh, through his religio-mystical approach, countered this British claim of India being merely a country and not a nation. And he said that India is neither a piece of land, nor a figure of speech, nor a figment of one's imagination, but India is a mighty Shakti composed of billions of Shaktis. So India is neither a piece of land, nor a figure of speech, nor a figment of one's imagination. He said that India is a mighty Shakti composed of billions of Shaktis, and therefore India is a divine entity. India is a divinity personified. So he tried to give a very religio mystical approach to the idea of India. He said that India has not been created by one human being. India has been existing here since time immemorial, and people belonging to this land, people inhabiting this territory, are Indians first, and then comes their other identities. If for you, your other identity belonging to a particular religion or caste comes before Indian, then it means the project of nation making for you has not been completed. That is why I said that when you drive a car on the road, the feeling when you drive a car on the road, what you witness and what you experience, it can be taken as an example of a state. But when you feel happy when Virat Kohli hits the ball out of the park, it means you are an Indian. So what you experience in your heart is an example of a nation. What do you experience in your heart? Hmm. Chaliye. Any other question? And now let us move on. Nobody is going to ask you whether North Korea is a nation or not. Nobody is going to ask you because people are not having much idea about North Korea. I have tried to research a lot about North Korea on YouTube and Quora, but still I haven't come across any authentic source of information related to North Korea. So I'm not sure about it. Hmm. With whom? It's a real challenge for us to maintain unity in this diversity. But we are a project in making, we are a nation in making. Any other question? It will remain a challenge, Pooja. It will remain a challenge. It will remain a challenge. I won't call it a myth, Vibhum, but still it's a challenge for us to maintain oneness because there is difference between unity and uniformity. Remember, unity is something that comes from within. Uniformity is something that is imposed from outside. Vibhum, the answer of your question. Somebody is asking this question, or a couple of students have asked this question about unity in diversity. You remember that what is the meaning of unity and what is the meaning of uniformity? Unity is something. So, nation is basically about unity. Unity. What is the meaning of unity? If the feeling comes from within, then it can be taken as an example of unity. If feeling if feelings come from within, then it can be taken as an example of unity. Then only it can be called as a nation. Then only it can be called as a nation. It can be called as a nation, तभी हम उसको nation बोल सकते हैं in true sense of the term. If feeling comes from within, then only it can be called as a nation in true sense of the term. If it is imposed from outside, then it is uniformity and not unity. If it is imposed from outside, imposed from outside, then it is not unity, rather it is uniformity. For example, we wear a school uniform, we wear police uniform, we wear military uniform, army uniform. So it is uniformity. Uniformity is something that has been imposed from outside, but unity is something that comes from within. So the project of nation making will be completed only when this unity comes from within. Only from within you have this intention of, you have this feeling of oneness, you have a shared feeling. Then only the project would be completed. Now we are moving on to the next topic. Yes, that is true, Ritik. We all hope so. Bharat, so every person in country has different view to say whether particular state is nation or not due to one person as nation. First, if simple, Bharat, there is very simple criteria to be judged. There is very simple criteria to judge whether a project of nation making for somebody has been completed or not. If my primary identity is of being an Indian, if I'm an Indian first and Hindu second, then it means the project of nation making Bharat has been completed for me. If if I'm a Hindu first and nation second, then the project of nation making has not been completed for me. If I'm an Indian first and Hindu second, then the project of nation making has been completed for me. Got my point, Bharat? So it's a very simple criteria to judge the things. Whether I'm a Hindu first or I'm an Indian first. If I'm an Indian first, then the project of nation making has been completed. If I'm a Hindu first, it means the project of nation making has not been completed for me. Very simple criteria to judge things. Whether nation has been completed, project of nation making has been completed or not. What is your primary identity? If your primary identity is belonging to a particular caste, if your primary identity is belonging to a particular religion, if your primary identity is belonging to a particular a religion or particular ethnicity, then the project of nation making has not been completed for you. Chaliye, it's a relative idea. It depends. It depends upon so many factors. But we are not going to we are not going to get into the details of all these things because you only need to know the basic meaning, nation, state, and etc. So now let us move on to another topic, another basic concept, that is law. These topics are very confusing. A student of Indian polity will keep on encountering challenges in these basic concepts. So now what is the meaning of law? What do we understand about law? क्या समझते हैं हम? What do we understand about law? One, law is nothing but it is the collective behavior of people. Law is something which is very objective, that ensures certainty, and law is something which is applicable to all. So how do we define law? When I say that law must be followed by all, when I say that traffic light must be followed by all, so it is the collective behavior of society that gets enforced by the state can be termed as law. So it can be defined as, law can be defined as it can be defined as collective behavior of society. It can be defined as the collective behavior of society that gets enforced by the state. Enforced by the state. Now, what is the meaning of collective behavior of society that gets enforced by the state? Collective behavior of society. It means what? Something on which all of us agree. For example, we all agree on one premise that you should not be killing somebody for no reason. If in self defense you have done so, then society agrees with you. Otherwise, you should not be killing somebody. Almost entire society agrees that when you drive a car on the road, you need to remain careful. You should not go for rash driving, otherwise, you may kill someone. You may destroy a couple of lives with your reckless behavior. So, law is nothing, rather, it is a collective behavior of society on which there is a broad agreement among the members of society. When I say collective behavior, what is the meaning of this collective behavior? So it means there is a broad agreement. There is a broad agreement among the members of society. There is a broad agreement among the members of society. It's called as collective behavior. But only having collective behavior is not enough. Remember, you have a collective behavior, you have a broad agreement among the members of society. Or rather, there is a broad agreement among members of society on something, but that is not enough. Only when it gets enforced by the state, it can be termed as law. Got my point? There is a broad agreement among the members of society that while driving a car, you should not become reckless in your approach. And if you are rashly driving, you should be punished by the authority of a state. So if you are rashly driving, who is going to punish you? So for this purpose, there is a broad agreement among the members of society, and therefore it has got to be enforced by the state. So a state makes the law. So law is nothing but it is the collective behavior of society. So something on which broadly most of the members of society agrees upon. Most of the members of society agree that we should not be violating certain basic principles. These are the basic principles which must be followed by everyone if you are a responsible member of society. And these principles are being enforced by the state. That if you violate these principles, and you will be punished by the authority of law. Example. क्या है एग्जाम्पल इसका? इसका एग्जाम्पल इज 1. ट्रैफिक light is the example. Traffic light इसका example है that everyone must follow traffic light, otherwise there will be utter chaos on the road. You will not be able to walk on the road. So basically, what does it do? The law ensures, law is objective. Law is something which is objective. 1. It ensures, law ensures certainty. Law is objective, law ensures certainty. Then, law is guided by reason. Law is guided by reason. Law is not unreasonable. You are not making a law out of your whims and fancies that I feel like that is why I'm going to make this law. You do not do that. Only when society generally agrees upon, and then only a law is formulated and passed by the legislature, then it is enforced by the state. So law is something which is objective, which you can objectively analyze. Point number one. Two, law is something that ensures certainty. So it is equally applicable to all. So it ensures certainty. And law is something that is being guided by the reason. Law is something that is being guided by the reason. What is the meaning of law is something that is being guided by the reason? इसका मतलब is very simple. इसका मतलब होता है कि law is reasonable. Law is not driven by passion. Law is something that is being guided by reason. It is being guided by logical things. It is being guided by logic, rationality, and reason. It is not guided by arbitrariness. It is guided by reasonableness. So everybody understood this concept of law. I'm just giving you general definition of puja law. We will be discussing about those individual rights when we will discuss about fundamental rights topic. Now, next important concept from which at least 3 to 4 times they have asked the question is liberty. At least 3 to 4 times. Now, what is the meaning of liberty? These are basic concepts, but these are very difficult one, because these things you will not find written anywhere else. At least 3 to 4 times they have asked very direct question from liberty itself. Like in 2020, they asked this question: which one of the following defines relationship between law and liberty? Where there is no law, there is no liberty. That was the answer. But they keep on asking such question: what is the meaning of liberty in the context of polity? Such kind of questions they will keep on asking in the paper. What you need to do about these concepts is, you need to take a very smart step in tackling such kind of questions, such type of philosophical question, because you will not be finding answer of these questions anywhere in those thick books. You go and read Didi Basu, you go and read Lakshmikant, but you will not be finding the meaning of these basic question. Even examiner knows that these basic concepts are nowhere written in the book, and that is why they keep on asking these philosophical questions. So if they will give you the definition of democracy itself, or if they will give you the definition of law itself, if they will ask a question on the law itself, definition of law, I tell you that most of the people will fumble. Even people having background in law will find it difficult and challenging to tackle such kind of question. So tackling article based question or tackling concept based question, pure concept which is written in the book, is not a very difficult task. But tackling concept which is not written in the book, which is pure philosophical in nature, will always remain a difficult task. That is why I told you that they have asked at least 3 to 4 questions from the term liberty itself. So these type of question becomes extremely challenging to be handled under exam pressure. So what you need to do is, whenever you find any word, so you just try to find out, do not go and to find out random meaning of the word. Sometimes people, they keep on asking me the meaning of political science. Now nobody is going to ask you in Indian Polity in general studies paper the meaning of political science. And sometimes people keep on asking me question like, what is the difference between polity and political science? Nobody is going to ask you such question. But obviously If it is a logical question like the definition of law, like the definition of government, like the definition of authority, democracy, law, liberty, such kind of questions can always be asked in the paper. That's why always be very mindful, very careful whenever you come across any such word. For example, what is the meaning of equity in real sense of the term? What is the meaning of equality? What is the meaning of fraternity? These are basic terminologies. And they keep on asking question. Like a number of times they've asked question related to the concept of equality itself. So in one of the years around 2000, I think 2021 or 2019, they asked question related to privilege. Which one of the following is a meaning of privilege? When rights are enjoyed by few people, we call it privilege. Now, in nowhere in the books you will find such meanings. That what is the meaning of right? What is the meaning of privilege? What is the relationship between rights and duties? They know these facts. They themselves have gone through these books, and then they have analyzed that these definitions are not provided there. That is why they keep on asking such philosophical question from you, because such philosophical question, it tests your conceptual clarity. So what is the meaning of liberty? Liberty does not mean license. Liberty means the freedom to do things which one thinks best for himself or herself. Remember, liberty does not mean license. Liberty means responsibility. So liberty is an aspect that helps you in developing an opportunity to develop oneself fully. So liberty gives you an opportunity to develop oneself fully. You can develop your personality if you have got a liberty. So liberty basically means, its literal meaning is freedom to do what one thinks best for himself or herself. What I think best for myself is my liberty. But does it mean that I have got the license to do whatever I want? No, I do not have got the license to do whatever I want. I want to capture someone else's property. That is not liberty. I want to have a particular car. For that I need to earn. Only then I can have a particular car. So liberty does not mean license. License to do whatever you want. Liberty means responsibility. So as a member of society, you have got certain responsibility towards your neighbor, towards your fellow being, towards your colleague, and towards everyone. Even people walking on the road, you have got certain responsibility towards them. So when you drive your car on the road, you have got certain responsibility for your people, for the people, other people driving on the car. You cannot recklessly drive a car on the road. And in case of reckless driving, anything can happen to you. I still remember, and that sends chill down my spine. I was driving car in Delhi Karol Bagh, Rajendra Nagar area. And suddenly one young boy, he zoomed past me. And he must have been driving his bike. He was a biker. In the morning, around 6 or 7, I was driving a car. And he zoomed past me. He must have been driving at a speed of not less than 120. My speed was hardly, I think, 25 kilometer per hour. I was slowly driving. And the way he zoomed past me, and zooming past me is not a big thing. There was, between divider and my car, there was hardly a distance of, I think, maybe 1 feet or 2 feet. And without me even knowing about that somebody is going to just overtake me, the way he zoomed past, I thought, and I was just thinking about taking my car to the right side. If I would have done that, the person would have died then and there only. The way he zoomed past me, the speed at which he zoomed past me. So it means you have got the liberty to ride a bike, but not in reckless manner, so that you will endanger not only your own life, but you will also be endangering someone else's life. Another practice which I find very appalling in India, that in societies where small children, they are playing, sometimes they are walking, sometimes aged people are walking sometimes, and I find this practice very appalling, that people drive car at very high speed. So in society generally, whenever I drive my car, it is always at a speed of 5 to 10 kilometers, so that if even if somebody jumps in front of my car, I can easily save the person. So liberty means it gives you an opportunity to develop yourself fully. This question was asked in civil services exam. So liberty is something that gives you an opportunity to develop yourself fully. Liberty means, it does not mean license. Liberty means responsibility. Liberty means the freedom to do what one thinks best for himself or herself. Liberty means the freedom to do what one thinks best for himself or herself is called as liberty. So, so just I'm coming on to your question. So liberty, yes, enjoyed within limit. So liberty means, it means freedom to do. It means freedom to do what one thinks best for one thinks best for himself or herself. But remember, liberty does not mean license. Liberty means responsibility. Liberty does not mean license. Does not mean license. It means responsibility. It gives an individual opportunity to develop oneself fully. It gives an individual an individual opportunity to develop oneself, to develop oneself fully. So it gives you the opportunity to develop oneself fully. Liberty means license. Liberty means when you are using your liberty, when you are using your freedom to do things for not only for your own self but also for larger society. You are not creating an obstacle in the path of liberty for others. So liberty basically means responsibility and not license. Now, what is the meaning of liberty means responsibility? Liberty means responsibility. It means that an individual is responsible, and an individual is responsible to his fellow being. An individual is responsible to his fellow being, to his fellow citizen. For example, while driving a car, while driving a car, an individual is responsible towards his fellow being. So liberty means license. Liberty means restrain. Liberty means restrain on your behavior. It does not, liberty does not mean license, it means responsibility, restrain on individual behavior. So, liberty gives you an opportunity to develop yourself completely. Now, that is the general meaning of general definition of liberty. So, you must be wondering about the meaning of freedom. What is the meaning of freedom? Though I haven't come across the meaning of freedom so far in any book of Indian polity. I tell you that I have searched n number of books so that I could get a definition of freedom that can satisfy me. But so far, I haven't come across the definition of a freedom in any of the polity book. But I came across the definition of freedom in one of the books of philosophy written by Osho, in which he gives a very complete definition of freedom. Now, what was the definition given by Osho in that book? So Osho says freedom means the ability to do things, the ability to say yes when yes is needed, the ability to say no when no is needed, the ability to maintain silence when nothing is needed. When all these dimensions are available, then only we have got freedom. So, freedom is a broader concept that also includes liberty. Sometimes students they keep on asking me this question: what is the difference between freedom and liberty? Yes, there is a difference between freedom and liberty, but unfortunately, I haven't come across a definition of freedom so far. I haven't come across any of the definition of freedom so far in a polity book. But the definition of freedom which I have come across in the book written by Osho in Freedom, book written by Osho, name of the book is Freedom. It says, the ability to say yes when yes is needed, the ability to say no when no is needed, the ability to maintain silence when nothing is needed. When all these dimensions are available, then only there is freedom. When all these dimensions are not available, then there is no freedom. So only when all these dimensions are available, then you can have freedom. So liberty is also one of the aspects of freedom. Freedom is a broader category and liberty is like a subset. So liberty means freedom to do what one thinks best for himself or herself, so that it gives you the opportunity to develop yourself fully. But it doesn't mean license, it means responsibility. Responsibility towards whom? Responsibility towards your fellow being. Everybody understood this concept? Please let me know. So, what is the relationship between law and liberty? The relationship between law and liberty is, now first you let me know whether you understood this concept or not. Okay. So what is the relationship between law and liberty? A relationship between law and liberty. When an individual can enjoy his liberty, if I have got the freedom to do what I think best for myself, So I will have all the right to infringe upon your rights. Got my point? So when an individual exercises his freedom to do things which he or she wants, then it will automatically infringe upon someone else's rights. So when I will exercise my choices to do things as I like, it will automatically infringe upon your rights to do things which you like. Got my point? So my freedom to do things will always come into conflict with your freedom to do things. So you have got the freedom to do things. I have got my freedom to do things. We all have got the freedom to do things. So your ability to do things for yourself will come into conflict with my ability to do things. It means there must be a restraint on my behavior. It means I must not be having unlimited power to do what I think best for myself. So there must be restraint on my behavior. Otherwise, your liberty and my liberty will come into clash, will come into conflict, leading to an anarchy like situation in society. And therefore, there must be some check on your behavior and there must be some check on my behavior. So liberty of individual to do things, to do things, do things will come into conflict with liberty of another individual, with liberty of another individual. This question has also been asked in civil services exam. Remember that liberty of an individual to do things will always come into conflict with liberty of another individual to do things. Liberty of another individual to do things. So liberty of one individual to do things will come into conflict with liberty of another individual to come into conflict. Liberty of another individual to do things. And therefore, to check such recklessness on the part of individual, you need to have an authority of law. So to check reckless behavior of individual, to check reckless behavior of individual, there should be an authority of law. There should be an authority of law. So it means where there is no law, there is no liberty. Remember, if there is no law, there is no liberty. So where there is no law, there is no liberty. That aptly describes the relationship between law and liberty. Where there is no law, there is no liberty. Because individuals' recklessness cannot be checked if there is no law. So I have got the freedom to do things which I think best for myself. You have got the freedom to do things which you think best for yourself. So what you think best for yourself and what I think best for myself will always come into conflict with each other's. And therefore, in order to resolve this conflict, you need to have an authority of state. You need to have the authority of law. So law is nothing but law is a reason unrestrained by passion. Law is a reason unrestrained by passion. Remember this fact. So when you have got the ability to do things and when I have got the ability to do things, your ability to do things will always come into the conflict of my ability to do things, and therefore you need to have we need to have the authority of law that checks upon your recklessness and that also checks upon my recklessness, so that neither you can become reckless in your approach nor I can become reckless in my approach. And therefore this line aptly describes the relationship between law and liberty when it says, if there is no law, there is no liberty. If you have law, you will have liberty. So if there is no law, there will be no liberty. That is why I said that this particular line, it aptly describes the relationship between law and liberty when it says that if there is no law, there will be no liberty. Got my point? Everyone understood this point? Please let me know. Always remember that one of the best safeguard to liberty in modern time is separation of power. What is the best safeguard to liberty in modern time is separation of power. We will discuss about it later on. Karunakar, ability of an individual to say what is in his mind, irrespective of what are other things. Yes. That is why I said that these concepts are nowhere mentioned in any of the polity books. Generally, polity books does not deal with these things. Polity books deal with technical things. And that is why they keep on asking such question in paper. So now let us discuss a couple of questions that have been asked in the paper. So one question that was asked in the paper, that which one of the following describes polity, which one of the following describes liberty in terms of polity? So the answer of that question is very clearly the ability that it gives an individual opportunity to develop oneself. And which one of the following describes the relationship between law and liberty? Yes, bandit. Diablo Bandit. Okay, very unique name. Diablo Bandit. Law is a reason, unrestrained by passion. So law is something that is reasonable. Law is something that is being guided by the reason and not by passion. Any other question? Okay, so now a couple of questions. So one question was asked, it was related to which one of the following reflects the most appropriate relationship between law and liberty. As I told you, if there are no laws, there is no liberty. Another question that was asked was that in the context of polity, which one of the following would you accept as the most appropriate definition of liberty? In the context of polity, which one of the following would you accept as the most appropriate definition of liberty? Options are 1. Protection against the tyranny of political rulers. 2. Absence of restraints. 3. Opportunity to do whatever one likes. And D. Opportunity to develop oneself fully. So answer D is the most appropriate one, though there are a couple of answers that comes very close to the definition of liberty. But in paper generally, what happens that two of the option would look very correct, but you need to find out the one that is the most appropriate one in civil services exam. Most appropriate one. Two answers might be correct, but you need to choose the one which is the most appropriate one. Yes, D. That is, it is the question very clearly says. So next, I think it is once again some disturbance is there. Some disturbance is there. So just check me out. If some disturbance will continue, so polls will be conducted not from today. Polls and everything would be conducted from tomorrow onwards. Chaliye. An act and the law, Shikhar, will be discussed later on. Remember, when we will be discussing about act and law, Shikhar has asked this question. Remember that suppose Parliament has passed a particular bill and President has given his assent, then it becomes an act. Now, let me describe. Shikhar has asked this question. With this question, I will be winding up today's session. Shikhar has asked this question: the difference between act and law. Difference between. It's a question in which a lot of people face difficulties. Difference between act and law. And law. Suppose a bill has been passed in the parliament. Now, what is the meaning of a bill? Suppose a bill has been passed in the parliament. Now, what is the meaning of bill? Bill is nothing but it is a draft legislative proposal is called as bill. Draft legislative proposal is called as bill. So when you want to pass a bill in the parliament, obviously you need to have the draft proposal ready. Remember, whenever you have, yes, last orientation class in YouTube, Triveni. So just listen to me. So I said that Shikhar asked this question, the difference between act and law, because a lot of people, a lot of students, they find it difficult to understand. So you understand this. A bill has been passed in the parliament. Now, what is the meaning of a bill? A bill is nothing but it is a draft legislative proposal. Now, what is the meaning of draft legislative proposal? Suppose something has to be passed in the parliament. So obviously it has to be provided in the written form with complete explanation, with all the finer points being discussed earlier. So a bill is nothing but it is a draft legislative proposal. And this draft legislative proposal, then it gets passed in the parliament. Once passed in the parliament, it goes to the president. Once passed in the parliament, it goes to the president for his assent. Goes to the president for his assent. And then President of India gives his assent. President gives assent and it becomes an act. His assent. Once given assent by the president, it becomes an act. It becomes an act. But this act is yet to come into the implementation stage. Remember, it has not come into the implementation stage yet. It has not yet come into into the implementation stage. It has not yet come into the implementation stage. Once it will come into implementation stage, it becomes a law. Once it comes into implementation stage, it is called as law. You may ask me this question, that can you give me an example? Yes, I can give you an example. I can give you a number of examples. So first one is Citizenship Amendment Act. Citizenship Amendment Act, CAA 2019. It was passed in 2019. In 2019, it was given assent by the president in 2019, passed in 19, and president gave his assent. When? In 2019. But it came into implementation stage only in March 2024. You must be remembering that just before general election, Citizenship Amendment Act implementation started. So it came into implementation stage. It came into implementation stage. When? It came into implementation stage in March 2024 only. So before March 2024, it was not a law, it was only an act, because it was yet to come into the implementation stage. So bill passed in the parliament goes to the president. When President of India gives his or her assent, then it becomes an act. But unless it has come into the implementation phase, it cannot be termed as law. So an act is something that has been passed by parliament and it has been given assent by the president, but it is yet to come into the implementation stage. It has only been passed in the parliament and given assent by the president. But once it comes into implementation stage, then only it becomes a law. Law is nothing but the implementation stage of the act is called as law. Shikhar. There may be many reasons. Yes, every law is an act. Uttara. That is true. Uttara. So, Shikhar, you got the answer of your question? You got the answer of your question? Implementation becomes late. There may be any reason. There are a number of reasons, protests going on, or there are some other sort of challenges, whether the state is ready or not. So even if a bill has been passed, it has come into the form of act, it doesn't mean that instantly it will get into the stage of implementation. Because in order to get into the stage of implementation, it requires a lot of preparation, Bharat, on the part of a state. That is why sometimes it gets into implementation stage a couple of years down the line when the preparation is completed. So we wind up with this today. So that's all for today. Tomorrow we will be tomorrow we will finish this topic and we will move on to the next topic. So we wind up with this today. It is Ritik. Sometimes it happens that it might be the reason of AI picking up a word from your chat. So you will be unblocked within a couple of days. Don't worry. Ritik, you will be unblocked within a couple of days. Don't worry. Thank you, Triveni, and thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hmm. No, from on tomorrow also you will have an orientation class on YouTube. It will go live on YouTube. Then from day after tomorrow, you will have the lecture only on the app. Mm, yes, that is true because the government is not ready right now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Remember that these topics are very important from exam point of view, especially prelims, and also from understanding part, because later on when I will be using these terminologies, so I will not take pain to explain these things because the students, they keep on asking me what is the difference between act and law and blah 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 and liberty. So I will have the liberty to carry on with my lecture. That is why initially, if, for first three lecture, I go for the topic basic concept only because these topics are very important from prelims point of view. And moreover, you do not find the explanation of these terminologies in books. So that is why I prefer to start Indian polity with these with these terminologies only. So that's all for today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, and let us meet tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Sometimes it may happen that your lecture may get delayed by 4 or 5 minutes due to some technical issue because I'm present in my studio at 10 a.m. Sharp 10 a.m. I remain there. But sometimes, due to some technical issue, it might take a bit longer time to go live. So don't worry, you just wait there. It may take around 5, 6, 7 minutes, but you just wait there. I told you about freedom. The freedom, you will not find any explanation of freedom in any of the polity book. So I told you Vibhum about freedom. That freedom is the ability to say yes when yes is needed, the ability to say no when no is needed, and the ability to maintain silence when nothing is needed. When all these dimensions are available, then only there is freedom. So now let us wind up with this today and meet tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone.